Spinning. Howdy, howdy. Okay, looks like we're live and ready to go. Howdy. Except that we need to...
Why is it tapping behind us?
As it does. Okay, guys, we are ready to go. We're learning a little bit of new software so that we can hopefully show you the screen. We keep working out some bugs, and we don't have nearly that cool of a thing to show you, but we do have a couple pictures we wanted to show you sometime. So today we're going to be talking about chronic fatigue. And, wow, that's a broad topic. So we decided to start writing down everything we knew about this and organizing it into a way that we could present it for an hour. We discovered that we had an awful lot to talk about. Chronic fatigue is a very broad subject. So...
Well, first thing you need to know about chronic fatigue is that every doctor in every state in the nation has a different name for it.
That's true.
Sometimes they refer to it as Epstein-Barr because they claim a high percentage of Epstein-Barr, high percentage of chronic fatigue people have the Epstein-Barr virus.
But not all of them.
Well, just as many people test positive for the virus without exhibiting any symptoms from it. So I don't know. In my opinion, what I've seen over years is that any viral attack in the body may set you up for the symptoms of chronic fatigue. I think let's play a minute on that word syndrome. What are we talking about when they say a syndrome? That means they have no idea what causes it. And all they have is a list of symptoms, and not everybody who has this syndrome has all of the symptoms. I still remember, nearly 40 years ago now, coming across it in a Reader's Digest, and it said, perhaps this is what's wrong with you. And it listed all these symptoms, and a dear soul near and dear to me had 19 of the 23 listed. Oh,
that probably is chronic fatigue.
Yeah. So, but like I said, it is just a syndrome. There's another name for it that I really like. Some doctors are calling it, the Institute of Medicine, the national group, systemic exertion intolerance disease. I liked it because for many years it wasn't even acknowledged as a real physical condition. You were told, well, it's the way you handle stress, or it's this or that or another thing. So calling it a disease kind of made my day.
Well, and for a while they even thought maybe it was a psychological illness. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely not. It's real. Rather, it's triggered by a virus or
whatever it is.
Or even an emotional stress. I mean, there could probably be multiple causes, but no matter what the cause is,
once it's taken out your adrenals and your thyroid, it's a physical disease.
It's a physical disease. And our last live that we did, we talked about adrenal fatigue and the 4 stages of it. This is like the next step. After you've gone through the 4 stages of adrenal fatigue, now you're talking chronic fatigue. And I mean, a great place to start is with the infection.
Yeah, I want to go back for a minute though to that name that fascinates me. You know, yes. What is the systemic exertion intolerance disease? For the first time, they finally have acknowledged that the entire system is sick. Yeah, and then I like that exertion intolerance because that's exactly what it is. The slightest exertion, going out and doing what used to be easy for them. And I've talked to one little girl who was a skier, and it's like, yeah, even just a short ski trip would put her to bed for weeks. So exertion intolerance. I really kind of like that disease, that name.
That's better than chronic fatigue, but it is well known as chronic fatigue. Everybody seems to know what chronic fatigue is, so we'll refer to it as chronic
There's
fatigue.
Another name Valaree and I have been sitting here playing with because we're pretty sure neither one of us know how to pronounce it. So look at the blog. Basically, what that Latin means is brain and spinal cord inflammation. And yep, that's part of it too. Inflammation in the brain.
But they call that one a disease, don't they?
They do.
And inflammation is not a disease.
Myelitis isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Inflammation is a symptom, and so you have to wonder why. What is causing the inflammation?
Especially on the spinal cord.
Especially on the spinal cord. Yes, that's a.
And in the brain,
inflammation. So interesting. She was talking about this is going to be available on the blog. As we started putting all of this information together and then organizing it, okay, what should be mentioned with what and how does it fit together? It definitely became a blog post. It is not actually on the blog yet because I wanted to tell you, as you're watching this, if you subscribe to the blog, which is, I think about this one, butterflyexpressions.net, when you subscribe, then anytime we post, it will send you a notification. And then you'll be able to find that post a lot easier. So I'll give you a little while after this thing is over, and then it will be posted probably by tonight.
I'm spending a great deal of time working on some things for the blog. Pretty much the entire oil class on steroids is the next project. So.
There's some good stuff, and we're going to do some stuff on anxiety. There's going to be some great stuff coming down the blog, so definitely want to get yourself subscribed, and if you do it before tonight, you'll get a notification when this goes up. Okay, so a great place to start with chronic fatigue.
One more thing before you.
Before
I don't know what's all this page either.
I do.
Okay, one thing to bear in mind is there is a school of thought, particularly in Europe, that chronic fatigue is brought on by chemical poisoning. So, the same old thing, the weed sprays, the fertilizers, the things we use every day in our kitchens, everything.
Even dental fillings has been considered as a cause.
As a possible cause. And sometimes having them removed puts more of it into your system than leaving them alone. So I don't know what to tell you on that one.
So, I could tell a story, but we don't have time. I went to the dentist yesterday. I can taste metal in my mouth, and so I was considering having a filling drilled out. And I also had a moment where I thought I might be pregnant, and I'm not, so it's good. But I'm up there at the dentist trying to decide whether to have him drill that out to get rid of the metal taste or leave it. And because there was that slight possibility that I might be pregnant, I would not have had him drill it out. Because that's not a good time to dump any kind of metals into your system in that first few weeks of pregnancy. So I didn't have them do it, and it turns out I'm not pregnant, but it turns out it wasn't metal anyway. It's just that I have a small filling, which he wouldn't touch anyway. He's a really good dentist. It's like, if there's any chance you're pregnant, none of your dental work needs to be done right now. We'll just wait.
Oh, so I like that. I'm
impressed.
Him.
He's a good guy.
So before we do move on, let's
Symptoms.
just one more time say it over again. Chronic fatigue affects the entire body. I mean, it's probably, if you have it, responsible for your abdominal troubles. It's responsible for your muscle troubles. It's responsible for your brain fog. It's responsible for your mood swings and your hot and cold and, everything.
Well, there's a lot of symptoms, but it is not a psychological disease.
It is not.
I mean,
you are not crazy. And you are not lazy, like they tried to tell someone I knew well.
I think they've pretty much left that school of thought behind, thankfully, finally. But the list of symptoms that are included covers everything from asthma, even certain cancers, and that list is growing daily. The things that they consider cancers that might be
related.
Chronic fatigue was a predecessor to it.
Yep.
So,
and food and environmental sensitivities, there's sleep disturbances. There's not much that's not on the list.
Frequent sore throats.
So.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. So, some of the symptoms that people don't frequently associate with chronic fatigue would include like migraines, frequent
cravings
headaches,
for sugar,
abdominal bloating,
cravings for sugar.
Anxiety and depression are also part of the chronic fatigue picture. So what we kind of want to do is we want to talk about the number one thing that you've got to do with chronic fatigue is eliminate the virus. Even if you're not sure if you have it.
Infections anywhere.
Infections and viruses anywhere, you've got to eliminate them right off. That's the place to start. And so we wanted to kind of talk about some herbs that will help you with infections. And they're not alphabetized. And they're also not always in order of most importance because everybody's different and everybody's symptoms are different. What I think we've kind of done is more often than not the ones that we start with. So maybe most popular, with the exception of sometimes when we get down talking about some oils, some of the newer ones have gotten tacked on to the end. And that's...
They're not even in the book yet.
Yeah, and that's just... I don't know. I think they're going to be the more popular, but...
Somebody down there is having all kinds of fun blending oil while I'm playing in paperwork.
While we're doing lives. Okay, so let's talk about some of these herbs. And I'm showing them to you in tincture form, although the same formulas could be taken as teas or many other formats, but tinctures are definitely the easiest way to take them. So the first one is...
Please try to avoid capsulated herbs because you just never know how potent they are. It took me a long time to understand how potent herbs could be when I walked away from the powdered ones.
So the first one here that you see is RC. And RC is a formula that is the best anti-infectious formula around.
Cleanser.
Yeah, and it's a blood cleanser. So it's a great place to start. The IF is... It's an infection-fighting tincture, and it contains cayenne. So I
Chase it with a cracker.
Yeah, I tend to go towards the RC first, just because I don't like hot things and my stomach doesn't handle hot things very well. So, but the IF it's a great infection fighter, and I've even if I'm sick enough, I'll take it.
RC is my all-time favorite. It's
because of the
to
blood
me
cleansing.
far and away. Yeah.
Yarrow Usnea.
I like that one because it comes a little differently. Yarrow tones and tightens the mucous membranes everywhere, and Usnea is an antifungal of renown. If RC's not hitting it, then you have more than a virus or a bacteria. You have a fungal thing going on. So
that toning it's healing things. It's repairing tissues, and so not only are you eliminating the infection, but you're also starting to rebuild.
Doesn't matter if it's gut or kidney or what it is, I love yarrow.
And it works for fungus and staph infections too. So yarrow Usnea, if you're not sure what you're fighting, is a great one. Okay, BAC.
Bacteria.
Formerly bacteria.
Yeah, but it's also a staph and strep fighter. So
Wound
healing. Now, please, when I've said that, please ignore the pictures you see. Please do not dump an alcohol tincture on your open wound. It'll disinfect it really great. Don't be doing that.
Yeah, but it does contain pau d'arco.
Which is a very interesting and original herb for certain kinds of staph. The only thing I know that works against it. So.
Actually, FN, which is the next one, contains pau d'arco as well.
It does have some in it. So.
And it's got black walnut, which has been known to deal with parasites and little nasties. So.
Yep. And
FN is actually, it was formerly fungus, and so that one contains anything that, if it's fungal somewhere in the body, that's
has
the
Usnea and pau d'arco and Oregon grape. I mean, it's got a ton of good stuff in it.
So now the question becomes, well, of what if I don't know if it's bacteria? What if I don't know if it's viral or if it's in the blood or
hit it with 2 or 3 of these, and it won't matter.
Hit it with a couple, or muscle test, or find someone who does.
Or go to the APL. There's nothing in the world APL won't kill.
But that's skipping the SS.
Oh, sorry.
We'll get to APL. APL is, absolutely, she's right, it'll hit them all. But let's talk about SS. SS was formerly named strep and staph. And it's a really great infection fighter. It's the one I grab when my kids have a sore throat and I know that strep throat's going around. I don't know if that's what they have, but I don't want it. And I definitely don't want it to spread through the house, so that's the one I hit it with. Okay, APL. Oh.
APL is the same herbs that is in the bone
high mineral.
Bone high mineral. There, I got it out with your help. That's always interested me, that the greatest infection fighter in the world is also the greatest one at rebuilding. The infection fighter properties of APL are found in the mega amounts of garlic. Yep.
So, those are the tinctures that'll help you with killing off whatever infection or bacteria or fungus or whatever is going on that might be causing the chronic fatigue. Those are your great place to start.
Besides, if you've got chronic fatigue very long, your immune system's trashed and you're catching everything that comes around anyway, so you've done no harm by
I'm going to tell a really quick story on APL.
The time Luke dumped it all down the kitchen cabinet.
It was Richard, and it wasn't the kitchen cabinet. Wow, I can't believe you forgot this one. That was not the worst one. So my brother was carrying it up the stairs in a gallon jar, and
the stairs are carpeted, by the way.
And it was carpet stairs, and we cleaned and scrubbed. I think we even rented a carpet cleaner. We did everything. We finally, out of desperation, because it smelled so bad of vinegar and garlic, that we ripped the carpet out. And it was a couple years before we could afford to put carpet back in. We just lived without it because it was
And then there was the year that
bad.
They dumped it on the top of the cabinet and it went down into the drawers and soaked everything. I swear none of you got sick just on the aroma alone. It was a great winter.
Yeah, that's a great one.
The whole kitchen smelled.
Okay, there are some oils, and this is supposedly chronic fatigue and essential oils, although we've never been able to stick to one modality in our lives. And if we have enough time at the end, we're going to get really in-depth into some homeopathics for treating chronic fatigue. And if we don't have time, we're going to come back and do it next week because we're going to do it. So stick with this.
In my opinion, chronic fatigue goes deep enough into the energy system, and we haven't got time for a 4-day homeopathic class here, but homeopathy reaches into what they call the miasms in homeopathy and stops the generational passing down of these tendencies. I don't really think you can beat chronic fatigue without using some homeopathy.
You can seriously improve your life. You can eliminate a lot of symptoms.
But you're band-aiding.
You need the homeopathic, which is why we're going to do it, even if we don't get it covered in this class. If we have to break this up and do it in 2 parts, we are going to cover chronic fatigue for homeopathics for those of you that want it.
Those great boys in that homeopathic place who educated me on that topic many years ago.
Let's talk about our 3 great oils for chronic fatigue and as far as eliminating the infection goes.
Well, deliverance is, of course, but if you're a little, can I say it, wimpy, you can use spicy.
That's pretty much it right there. So Endo Relief is your great endocrine oil. It's thymus, pituitary, thyroid, all of that. My favorite place to put it is on my kidneys, which I think I'm actually putting it on the adrenals. I'm putting it right across that kidney spot at the back, and it's a pick-me-up for the adrenals.
Chest, bottoms of your feet. I mean, just get it
And
there.
then Deliverance is a great one. I used to say to put it on your toothbrush. I don't anymore because it tends to wear your toothbrush out really quick. So what I did is actually get a glass or metal cup, not a plastic one, please.
Get the little paper cups that you
the little Dixie paper cups. And after you're done brushing your teeth, put a little bit of water in it. Then add a couple, one drop, maybe 2. One.
Stir
I go
up.
for 1, and sometimes I get 2. But and then I add a little bit more water, and adding that water mixes it for me. But you can just stir it too, whatever. And then swish that around and spit it back out. We don't ingest them. We don't say you swallow it, or you're just, and then spit it back out. You'll get enough into your system that way to kill off whatever's going on. And if the Deliverance is too strong, spicy is the wimpy version, but spicy...
Spicy's just missing a few of the really great, but the cinnamon is strong enough to cover it, and there is, I think, as I remember, some time in there.
It's good, but it's not
It's an excellent blend. It's just...
Okay.
I blend for effect, not taste or smell.
Now, your favorite topic, Mom.
Oh.
Diet.
I'm not going to do it yet.
Can't beat chronic fatigue if you're living on junk food, soda pop, and potato chips.
But like we said before, one of the symptoms of chronic fatigue is the craving for sugar.
It's true.
And it does temporarily, and craving for soda pop, it does temporarily make them think they have more energy. They go out and finish the project they're on, but then the crash is a couple of days long. It's not worth it. I'm sorry, it just isn't.
Beat your sugar addiction.
Beat the sugar addiction.
And
Fine.
it's hard, but it's only hard for a little while, and then life gets so much easier because your system's not dependent on it.
Every chronic fatigue person I've ever seen will beat it, and then they get under stress. They get, project they got to finish, and there they are again. They beat it 47 times throughout their life.
Because they don't actually beat the sugar addiction. So your body needs all the vitamins and minerals and that it can possibly get. I mean, eat as clean as you can. Don't eat. I mean, and some people will think they're eating great by going out and getting a salad. Well, not if it's just crappy lettuce. You need dark green.
It's not green. It's not a salad.
You're just eating for fun.
Well, and there's a lot of things, a lot of energy work modalities that teach allergy work and teach absorption of nutrients work. And that's kind of vital to a chronic fatigue person too. They probably got there because for something in the gallbladder, something, they weren't uptaking their nutrients. That's how they got into the nutrient hole that made them susceptible.
What does that stand for? That correction that we do in the chrysalis work.
You would ask that, wouldn't you?
I can't remember. It's called an MC correction.
It is.
And I mean,
metabolism.
She's been teaching these not cranial classes, these chrysalis classes for enough years and put enough people through them that you can find somebody who knows how to do one of these corrections to help you absorb and change the way they absorb nutrition. There are also herbs and there are oils that change the way that you absorb nutrition. So you can hit it from an energy type standpoint, and there's lots of different modalities and you can look into it and ask them, is there anything that you do that's specific for helping change the way that your body absorbs minerals or change the way that you absorb nutrition? And
we've had some incredible experiences over the years with changing how the body deals with calcium and how it deals, instead of bone spurs, it actually creates bones, and teeth. How nice.
Okay, so, I mean, there's no substitute for doing your homework. Find out what your symptoms are. Are they a shortage of zinc? Does it mean you're not getting enough potassium? Find out what you're not getting enough of, and then maybe even look into it from I have a calcium deficiency. Well, I don't anymore, but I did. I had a calcium deficiency, which I should have figured out because I broke lots of bones as a child.
And we had every doctor test for unknown demand. Their idea of normal and mine are not the same.
So, turns out, so I started taking calcium, right? Well, what happened was I started doing kidney stones. Bad idea. But if you're not absorbing it, you're just putting in more than your body can handle. So I did some research, found out that you have to have magnesium in order to absorb calcium. Well, everything is like that. If you're not absorbing it, is it because you're not getting enough in your diet, or is it because you're not eating the other things that you need to uptake it? And so, and there, I mean,
or eating what I call the vitamin bandits, which, carbonated beverages lead the drill there.
Yeah, you gotta eliminate your junk too. So, I mean, we could have a 4-day class on nutrition, and everybody's going to be different, and so there's no way to cover that as part of chronic fatigue. It's just very important for you to realize that in order to beat chronic fatigue, you have to have excellent nutrition. Okay, so let's talk about the herbs for nutrition. And I'm going to show them to you.
Oh, she has pictures.
I like pictures.
Yeah, this is a lot different than the rough outline I gave you.
I just figure they get tired of looking at me. I get tired of looking at me. Okay, so these two tinctures, K and A, which is kelp, nettles, and alfalfa, and the other one is min, which stands for minerals, or was formerly minerals, or however you want to say that. Both of these are also available as a glycerin, which is just a different way of preserving them, but sometimes people can uptake the glycerin better than they do the regular tincture.
And sometimes the glycerin is too sweet.
The glycerin is too sweet, and it'll trigger those sugar cravings for me.
Well, and it'll feed whatever bacteria they have.
Yeah, or it could be, if you're fighting a candida or a fungus, it could actually be a factor for feeding it. So it's important to know that they're available both ways, and depending on preference and how you feel. If you try one and you're not super happy, maybe try taking it the other way. My favorite way to do the min is actually as a tea. I just buy the herb pack, and I put a little bit of honey in it, and I just drink it.
Min's okay that way. K and A, you got to have a love for kelp or dolls.
If you like the taste of seaweed, you'll be great.
Otherwise, it's better in something small that you can swallow. Okay.
Yeah. So those are the
both
two.
of those contain every trace mineral that we know of, and most of the vitamins. And because of what's in them, they actually contain a couple of interesting proteins too. So they're pretty comprehensive nutrition.
Now, whenever you have a conversation about nutrition and herbs, it's of course going to lead into a discussion of colon health. And your colon is where most of your vitamins and nutrition is absorbed. And so if your colon is in bad shape, you're not absorbing the nutrients anyway. So a great place to start might be with a colon cleanse. There are some herbs for cleansing the colon. And we actually put together a kit, which is the 4-system cleanse. It contains your colon digestive, your
liver
KB,
cleanse,
your liver cleanse,
support,
and then that RC that we talked about at the very beginning, the blood cleansing one. And so now you're wondering, well, what's the little bottle out to the side?
What is it? I
That's
can't see
not
it.
part of the kit. It's sarsaparilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do I get to explain that?
Go for it.
Okay, your colon is really great at absorbing nutrients, but it's also meant to pass off garbage. And right there at the tail end of the colon, the last bit, if you have an unhealthy colon, what you will do is reabsorb unhealthy stuff. They're called endotoxins. And sarsaparilla binds well with endotoxins and helps them finish the journey out of the body instead of reabsorbing. Interesting, the old time people, 200 years ago, made their root beers and sarsaparilla drinks, and they recognized that this was a healthy thing for their colon and for their overall health. And one of my favorite tinctures, I start feeling cruddy or I'm having any kind of colon issues at all, the first thing I do is go on a couple of weeks of that one just to make sure that with RC will pretty much keep your blood clean, and that means your liver does better, and that means your kidneys don't have to overstress. It just works all the way down, and yeah, that's one of my favorite tinctures.
I don't drink soda as a general rule.
Sometimes you've craved it in your life, the root
but
beer.
root beer would be the one that I would
Sarsap
go for.
root beers, yeah.
So I've discovered over the years, though, that if I get a really bad headache, and my headaches they tend to be either hormones or the end of my colon is plugged up and I've got endotoxins building up, and it causes me a headache. So I've discovered in the past that if I'm out running around and I'm nowhere near herbs and I can't go home, and I've been too dumb to bring anything with me, which happens, that I can drink sarsaparilla if you can find one. And a lot of grocery stores or gas stations will have one. Well, the other day I was helping a buddy unload a big truck, and it was late at night, and my headache was just getting worse and worse and worse, and I was pretty sure that's what was causing it. And of course, he didn't have any sarsaparilla, but he did have root beer. And I thought, man, I haven't had a root beer in like 2 years, except for the family reunion when it's homemade. I cheated. Okay, but I grabbed one out of his cooler, and I thought, really, am I going to drink this? But it didn't take the headache away completely, but it did help. And root beer is only in the same family as sarsaparilla. If you can actually take the tincture, wow, it is so much stronger. So, but I hadn't taken it for a couple of days. I got busy. I wonder how come. How does that happen?
Back to work on your colon.
Yeah. So,
the colon inheritance is not my side of the family, by the way.
Yes, I get that from my father. Thanks. Okay, essential oils that help improve the absorption of nutrients. So these are some of my favorites.
Well, it's kind of a toss-up between eternity and everlasting as the two greatest ones that there is.
And we want to point something out. We're going to show you an awful lot of things. You do not need all of it. You don't need half of it. You need to study it and decide, especially where the oils are concerned. You probably need one out of these four. Yeah. If you have essential nutrient absorption is part of your symptom picture. If it's not, skip this section. We definitely don't want everybody to run out and buy all of this stuff. We want to know where to start to look. Look up each of these. We're going to tell you a couple of sentences about each one, but really, we can't cover. These are 4 amazing oils. If you read everything about them 10 times, you'd still learn something new next time. They're amazing and they're deep.
So where are you starting? Eternity?
Sure. It's on the left.
All right. Antioxidant properties. So it enhances the absorption of nutrients, but it also eliminates the crap and the junk. So
it improves overall vitality.
And the main thing Eternity focuses on is calcium and other minerals, but it'll change calcium absorption. And when I say absorption, I'm not meaning just absorbing. It teaches the body how to utilize it, because a calcium absorption problem usually manifests as gallstones or kidney stones. And since I did one or the other every 3 or 4 months for quite a few years when I was younger, it's like, no, haven't done that in the last 20 years. It's amazing. So that one you would pick if you knew you had a calcium absorption problem. And that's probably why I love Eternity so much, because I've had one my whole life, and I love Eternity. That's one of my go-tos. But Everlasting. Everlasting is made from blends. You have to make the blends and let them sit a while, and then you blend the blends, and it's very high frequency. It's a
low frequency blend made from high frequency oils.
It's strange how the synergy works there.
It is very interesting.
Each blend is off the charts high. Heart Song is one of them. But the blend itself, when you're done with it, is both an amazing emotional thing and gets right into the cellular level of those emotions.
It releases the negative emotions clear down to the cellular level. So if your vitamin absorption problem stems from an emotional driver, Everlasting is probably the oil that you want. Okay, Unity.
Balance every chakra. It's what comes at you from the world and how you process it.
It's one for
other
allergic
people's
reactions.
Yeah.
It's the one for, if you're allergic to tons and tons and tons and tons of foods, so your diet is limited in what you can eat and where you can get your nutrition from, Unity is a great place to start. The place.
Besides, I used to diffuse it among my homeschooled children because it was more peaceful that way. Right around the dinner table all the time.
Okay, we have a picture of Wisdom there, which would be my bad. It's supposed to be Intention.
Oh.
Aha! I have no idea why
Wisdom's a good oil too. Intention.
Well, maybe I just
maybe it's on the next page. I don't know.
No, anyway.
Intention. All right. Capillary and vein health is the strength of intention.
Digestive.
And gallbladder and liver. So gallbladder inflammation, the production of gallstones. It's another thing that deals with calcium. So.
Blood pressure fluctuations.
But, the vein health is.
And Intention also works to build energy levels. This one is the one my husband's go-to, and I'd say he's about stage 3 adrenal fatigue and won't remember.
My husband's go-to is Revitalize, but it comes up later. But Intention is if I've overworked or ran too fast or ate something I shouldn't have, Intention is what I go for the solution.
And I don't know how I got that picture of Wisdom in there. I've been working on this thing night and day for a week.
I know. It's been so great. Oops. You're doing it instead of me. I love it.
Okay. Well, we were talking about colon health, and we wanted to talk about a couple of oils for colon health. And you guys probably hear the same every time we talk about colon health or digestive system. We talk about the same 3 oils, and
Absolutely.
Here we go again. But we're going to talk about them in a little bit different, and how they. Man, I shouldn't be doing a live today. How they relate to chronic fatigue. Because like I said, there's so much information about each of these oils, but we went at them from them. Why would you use this particular oil if it was chronic fatigue? So, here we go.
Because Inside Out balances both constipation and diarrhea. And one of the things about chronic fatigue is you never know which way it's going to be. Maybe one way for 3 or 4 days, and then all of a sudden you'll break loose with diarrhea. and inside out kind of helps balance that. Stomach cramps, one chronic fatigue person I know used to describe it as a knife turning in his gut.
Yeah.
And inside out will help relieve that kind of stomach cramping and pain.
But it also works on heartburn.
Nausea, belching.
Stomach cramps. And it brings the system into balance. It's so
much as it can to kill whatever's causing the problem. You gotta kill. You
have to consider
the thing.
that it's a bacteria or something that the body's winning for a while, so it's dumping a whole bunch of those little dead guys into the colon gets overwhelmed. So, Julia,
I just reading the first sentence. Designed for small children, but many adults love it as well.
I do.
It was actually designed for a 24-hour-old baby.
Yes, it was.
We had just stressed out during the birth process.
So it calms and soothes the emotions. Julia is very much an emotional oil. It's for the knots in the stomach.
And it was designed to be a physical oil because of trauma to the umbilical cord during birth.
For fear and anxiety.
But the fear and anxiety that
need to hold on tight.
Granddaughter must have felt. And the need to hold on. It's an amazing.
When you feel that need to hold on
thing.
tight, your colon's doing the exact same thing.
There's something you want to talk about, but you can't because you keep crying or throwing things at someone.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's for infants and small children, but they've just been through that birth process, which can be great. It can also be a difficult transition. And the 24-hour-old baby that it was designed for definitely had a rough transition into this world.
She did. It was an interesting one. In fact, I actually delivered her, and she was my granddaughter, and it took us a few days before the sound of my voice didn't make her cry. It took some doing. Julia wasn't just the solution for the umbilical stress that had gone on because of the cord problem, but was that it helped emotionally, and it helped her and me both. I'd been a little panicky too.
So Easy Traveler is actually for motion sickness, but if you think of it as butterflies in the stomach, and it's got some interesting emotional strength, like the ability to cope with the day's events, which is why it's included here with the chronic fatigue. Chronic fatigue it's an overwhelming, it's a chronic debilitating disease.
You just don't have the energy to do what you have to do. It's
an Easy Traveler. I've never done motion sickness. Easy Traveler's just never been that great for me. But the first time we did one of these lives, we did it through a company. We had 7,000 people on, and we couldn't get it to work.
And I was cussing them out.
Talk about stomach in knots. I was physically sick, and by the time we got through, it was a 4-hour class. By the time we got through that, my stomach hurt so bad, and I went downstairs and I stood in front of my oil cabinet and I tested, what's the best oil, and I was totally expecting Inside Out, Julia, and it comes up with Easy Traveler. I'm like, what in the world? I'd already rubbed Inside Out a couple times. I was just like, whatever. I put that Easy Traveler on it and I slept like a log. And I couldn't believe that was even possible, as stressed out as I had been.
What she actually said as she flopped into bed was, turn everything off and go away, Mom.
Yeah, it was a very stressful day. Since then, I have thought more about my stomach troubles, and I've thought, okay, is this because I ate too much junk? Is this because I've altered my diet in some way? Or is this an emotional thing? And it changes which oil I grab. And so Easy Traveler is, while it promotes feelings of calmness, and it's meant for motion sickness. Wow, it is great for.
Well, it was meant for the motion sickness of someone who was afraid to fly and travel. So it was designed and created with the emotional thing involved.
Interestingly enough, though, it also works for nausea, dizziness, and vertigo. So if vertigo is part of your chronic fatigue symptom, then the Easy Traveler is the one that you're looking for. So we've tried in the blog to keep the descriptions of these oils very, very short so that you can pick them out from there, but I highly recommend a more in-depth study. And if you possibly can't
if you learn something new, tell us. Yeah,
that's right. We can. Well, and that's the nice thing about the blog is you can comment forever, and people can add their thoughts to it, and it's great. So, and you can ask questions there too. All right. Okay. Another major part of chronic fatigue, or the most major maybe. We started with dealing with the infection, and we started with dealing with.
This is what makes people look for help.
Changing the way they absorb vitamins, because those are two major things, and you probably can't kick chronic fatigue until you deal with those two. But the reason that you're here is because you have no energy.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
Fatigue. That's the key word
Chronic
to this whole
fatigue.
thing.
Okay, the good nutrition will help, and of course, good sleep is imperative. So we're going to take this energy
One
thing
of the
in two
problems
parts.
with chronic fatigue, though, is it comes with insomnia. That getting to sleep.
Almost everyone with
get
chronic
to sleep,
fatigue.
and the slightest sound wakes you, and then you're awake. Sleep is an issue.
So we're going to talk about oils to help with energy, but then we're also going to talk about some oils to help with sleep, and we'll do both. Okay. Oh, let's get you a picture of what we're going to talk about.
Something besides us. I like it. Yeah.
We sure wore matching colors today, though.
Yes, we did, didn't we?
We planned this one well. All right. There's quite a list because different oils work for different people, and we could have made this list twice as long, but we did go kind of sort of with the whole popularity thing. Revitalize is by far and away the most popular for this. I would say vitality is next, maybe energy. The IQ, though, he's pretty important, so let's go.
Let's talk about Revitalize for a minute. I don't know what it is. After my husband's burns, you'd look at him and he just looked like he was too tired to breathe. And I would rub Revitalize on his feet and find him up bipping around doing things in 10 minutes, Revitalize has been a major part of so many people's return from chronic fatigue. I like to tell them, okay, put the Revitalize on your feet, give it 3 or 4 minutes, and then if you still have time for the sugar, don't keep the pop in your house, drive to the store,
Yes.
But Revitalize often will stop that craving because you're craving it because you want the energy temporary that it will give you. The Revitalize does that without the downer, the crash later.
Revitalize tends to be for those people who run faster than they have strength. They know they're doing it. They just keep doing it anyways.
Yes, I don't know who that would be. You got that on both sides of the family, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Okay, IQ. It's mental fatigue. That mental alertness, the concentration, and the memory.
The key to IQ is the frankincense, and it's a well done blend. And it's sesquiterpenes carrying oxygen to the brain so it's mental alertness for those chronic fatigue days when you're not sure who you are and you wouldn't dare drive because left and right's a little confused.
And people who, if you have no idea what we're talking about, IQ is not for you. But if you're like, yeah, that sounds like me, yes, some days it's just debilitating tiredness, and some days it's just disconnected, can't focus. The interesting thing about IQ, are you gonna?
Yeah, as a foot zone therapist, what I have found with IQ, even just rubbing it on the foot and starting the zone, by the time I get to the pineal gland and the pituitary and the hypothalamus, zone the person before, and you could pick up that heavy metals in there, it clears it. I don't know how it does it, how it causes the bloodstream to absorb it and put it off into the kidneys,
the chemicals.
But you can feel the receptor sites on major glands in the brain playing differently.
So if you know that you've been exposed to heavy metals, like as a teenager, I helped my dad. We did a lot of cutting on
aluminum.
Oh, what was it? Galvanized.
Oh,
and
galvanized aluminum.
Every once in a while, I still taste that, and IQ is the one I grab when I do that. And foot soaks, and I go on a major cleanse because I don't like that. It's a sign I might go back to chronic fatigue. And thank you, I don't ever want to go back there. I'm happy being energetic and having enough energy to do these lives and all this writing that I've never considered myself a writer, but it's kind of fun. Okay.
I give her junk and she turns it into good stuff.
We can't turn this section into a whole hour. We gotta move on.
Gotta move on. Okay, energy. Well, that's just what it says it is. So the main thing with it is this adrenal glands and increasing circulation.
People with an inability to make decisions, and especially if they really want the approval from others, they can't decide because what will the neighbors think? And there.
The electrical function of the heart, if you tend to do arrhythmias or palpitations or flutters, and the doctors have told you that they're perfectly normal, but they don't feel normal because they make you feel lightheaded and weird.
It's a good one.
This is the blend for that. That and vitality. I rarely use energy because vitality was made for me and it's mine and I love it.
But energy energy fits those people who just can't decide, the indecisiveness.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Vitality's yours, and I'm just going to let you have
the number one remedy for heart stuff and for shock. So, insomnia, I've used so much of that in my past that I don't like the smell anymore, but just a very, very high, specific to the cardiovascular, circulatory, and pulmonary system. So if whatever's going on with your heart is affecting your lungs, and there's a breathing issue or a heart issue, vitality is the number one for that.
It just gives you enough energy to enjoy life.
And then
it affects the lymphatic
system. Yeah, we were going in the same direction there. So, yeah, Vitality's my oil. I've spent a lot of time with Vitality.
The next two are interesting because cinnamon bear contains both clove and cassia, which are contraindicated for pregnancy. And in a blend, they're okay. If I were pregnant, I would want to be careful. And then the next one, ambition, which is actually really great for pregnant women. So that's interesting. But let's take cinnamon bear on.
I've been a midwife for a long time, and I find most of them, if you're not putting them on 10 times a day for the entire pregnancy, but you're responsible for that other life, and if there's something else you can use, why would you not?
That's right. So that's why you kind of put them together. Ambition, if you had to choose, I would pick ambition while pregnant. I would never do labor and delivery again without it. I almost wish I could do it one more time just to see how much better ambition would make it, because that is my baby. And I never got to do, but I'm not having anymore, so you don't think we're having anymore?
But you worried about you were pregnant yesterday. Yeah, we'll see about this.
Well,
anyway.
I'm regular as heck. I'm never, ever, ever, ever late. I don't know what happened.
Well, and I'm not as familiar with ambition as I should be because
it's
I
my
didn't
baby.
create that one. You did.
Okay, so cinnamon bear is circulation. And that's probably another reason why I probably wouldn't use it a ton while pregnant, because while you want to increase circulation, you don't want to overdo that. It's also immune system and lymphatic system. So, okay, now my favorite one, ambition.
You do ambition. That's your baby.
Ambition is just, it affects the whole body. It's a whole body rejuvenation.
It's
a
her version of Revitalize.
Yes, it is. But it's an amazing oil to help recover from illness. And, well, we're talking about chronic fatigue, so. But
that's the thing. Chronic fatigue people tend to think when they feel a little bit better that they're all better.
No.
And they run faster than they have strength again. Ambition for the convalescent. I think I'm doing better stage. Yeah.
Ambition's really great for the headaches that are caused by stress or mental fatigue. It is great for revitalizing the weary mind, and it's awesome for pregnancy and labor. So
I want some. No. I think I've said that before.
And I love the smell. So it's interesting. It contains coriander and eucalyptus. It's got a little bit of a peppermint smell. It's got grapefruit, which is one of my favorites. And interestingly enough, I'm not a huge fan of lavender, but lavender went into this sweet little baby, as well as lime. So, and lime is one of my favorites.
Seriously, that's the ingredients.
Well, it's got Kanuka too.
Well, you are good if you can put grapefruit and peppermint in the same bottle.
And lavender.
You are good, girl.
It took me a while, but this one took me a while, and it was for my own round of adrenal fatigue, and I just I just didn't have the right thing. And as soon as I had it created, I thought, this oil needs to go somewhere to someone. And it actually ended up being the main reason that we built that back to school kit. Because it is a great one for children in that situation. They face so many things, especially middle school and high school. They face so much today that this oil deals with the emotions of that. And it is awesome.
Well, I just have to say here, and I know it has nothing to do with chronic fatigue, but the thing I am working on, that's the reason why she's doing all of this work, is a thing on getting to know your essential oils well enough to play in your own blending.
And do your own blending.
And so that'll be, I hope, something people will enjoy, because it's been a
lot of work. And we've been recording it and then putting slides with it. And I think it's, our original goal was to do about, 13 hours?
Yeah.
And I think we're going to be closer to like 3 days. It's going to take us months, but we're having a good time doing it. And it's coming up in pieces on YouTube. Eventually it will be an entire class. Mm-hmm. But we're doing it in sections, and we're doing it as we have time and as we can.
A good share of it's written. We just need to take time to
We promised to talk about oils for sleep.
Okay, sleep.
Because if you're going to beat chronic fatigue, you have to get good sleep. And we're going to break this out into... I got the wrong oil again, don't I? Nope, I don't.
No, you did good.
Okay, let's show them. Woohoo. I'd be almost embarrassed to show you another wrong oil, but I would have anyways, because wrong picture's better than no picture. Okay, good night. I have a little bit of experience with this one lately. I have a 3-year-old who needs her mother and her grandmother to take some time and do some emotional clearing for her. I have no idea what is causing her nightmares, but they go away for long periods of time, and then we're back to them. And last night, she woke up, and it took rescue remedy. I could not find the tranquility no matter how hard I looked. Of course, it's 3:00 in the morning, but and who knows which one of my children had stolen it. I didn't want to wake them all up, but I could not get her calmed down. I gave her rescue remedy, and I put good night on my shirt and then laid her across my chest, and she went back to sleep.
She was born.
It took her 45 minutes to calm down enough that she would sleep peacefully, but she never woke up again.
She had a long and difficult birth. Hold her on your chest. Let's do some
sleep.
birth
She sleeps
trauma
fine
work.
if she's in my bed. The problem is I've been trying to get her out of my bed because she's 3, and I need better sleep. And she doesn't exactly hold still, and she's getting big enough.
And no's her favorite word.
No is her favorite word. So, and I'm not trying to move her just onto the floor. And she's not handling it well.
We need to find the source of that emotion.
What we need to do is the emotional clearing. But the good night was amazing last night. It just helped her go back to sleep. Good night often peaceful.
Tests up for people that have been doing heavy emotional clearing work. It's like a way of processing it peacefully. And you wake up in the morning feeling better, but you didn't know you processed it.
I like the part where it said it was assurance that all will be well in our world, even though we're sleeping. And that's what fits Tasha so well.
It does, doesn't
is that she doesn't dare go to sleep because she has to watch over everything and everybody. Sometimes I can't. She's 3,
control freak.
and she doesn't usually tell me what's going on in her dreams. But when she does, it always concerns another member of the family. Kendra was drowning, or I've heard them all from Tavanna fell off a horse. No. I guess last name. Okay. Yeah. So she does. She dreams about other members of the family more. Spiders. She does have dreams about spiders. And when she's awake, her fingers are good spiders. So I don't know.
I don't know where that is either.
she's 3 and she's cute. Okay. So good night.
She's like raising Valaree over again because she looks just like her. So letting go. Exactly what the name implies. Letting go of negative emotions, letting go anger, things you won't forgive and forget, emotional baggage that's dragging your energy down.
Anger. I'm going to say it like 4 more times. Anger.
Well, I'm going to say the part with the kidneys. Fear.
Fear. Well,
gallbladder,
Anger is a secondary emotion. It's a mask for most often fear. And so if you can let go of the fear, the anger, you're often letting go of the fear at the same time. So yeah, letting go is for those people who aren't sleeping because they're so mad that they can't sleep. Okay, tranquility.
Mind chatter. It's what comes to mind when I'm laying there and I just can't shut down. The conversation I'm having with someone because I probably didn't like what I said the first time.
You can't sleep because you're too busy going over everything you've got to do tomorrow.
Yeah, that too.
But tranquility is best known for panic attacks.
Tranquility is best used with BBL. Hit it from both angles.
Take the BBL, put your tranquility on, go to sleep. Okay, panic attacks and anxiety though. If you have tranquility around, or if you tend to do those during the day, it could
not
also
all chronic fatigue people do panic attacks, but quite a few of them do.
Then tranquility might be the oil that would help you sleep better than the other two. Yep. So, but only you know yourself better, so you would be better to pick which oil than us. Yes, I love that phone call when people, I fight chronic fatigue and I can't sleep. What's the best oil? And it's like, well, do you have mind chatter? Are you angry? You just want to ask them a bunch of questions and then pick their oil.
Are you processing emotions from some trauma in the past? What's going on with you? Yeah.
But that would be the 3. And I'd say, go read about these 3 oils. That's what people just love when they call with a question and I give them homework. My favorite. I don't know, but you do. Okay. Energy levels, the tinctures for this. Even though this is an oil-ish class, we're going to talk about some tinctures. It's an oil-ish class. I got to show them what we're...
All right.
Go for it. Can't figure out how to do it. There we go. All right. We got them broken into 2 groups again, and we'll make it make sense.
CF stands for chronic fatigue, and it was created exactly for that and tweaked on with over the next 25 years. So, but it's doesn't cover everything. You're going to need it along with the AD, which is the adrenal toner, and then the MH and MW and YW are designed to help tone the hormones.
And you don't need all 3. You need 1. Depending
YW
on
if you're young, childbearing years. MW if you're older than that, women. And the MH stands for men's herbs. So pick it according to your season of life and your gender. And use it with the other 2, the chronic fatigue and the adrenal toner. The adrenal toner is an amazing blend for adrenals.
One thing I wanted to bring up is if you have the green book, you can look up what's in these. Or if you have a really good monitor, you might be able to read those ingredients on those little bottles. But you can also go to butterflyexpressions.org, go to information, and there's a list of all the tincture combinations. There's recipes for each one of these, and you can see what's in them. You can study the individual herbs. You can take this education as far as you'd like to.
Well, all right, am I taking the next bit? Okay. What I found with chronic fatigue people, and not just the one closest to me, but others, is that it was like riding a roller coaster, because there were days when they seemed to have endless energy. Run, 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 do a project. My favorite book on chronic fatigue, and I lost the reference, but it's by Jesse Staff, and Pellegrino was the other author, and Chronic Fatigue, the Hidden Epidemic, and they cover it so well, but they describe how, almost frozen in place from the muscle cramping and fatigue, debilitating illness, given up working, given up his high stress career, given up everything, and yet one day he goes out on the beach and spends the whole day hauling heavy sand around and building a sand city, and then as it washed away with the tide in the evening, saying that's what my life has done.
I just feel like, you're chronic fatigue one day, the next day you feel awesome, amazing, you got all this energy.
How many times have I seen that? They have energy for a day or two, start some horrendous project, and then it sits around under feet for the next 6 months because they don't even get out of bed very often.
Well, or a lot of times people will get the nutrition and the herbs going and they start to feel a little bit better, and then they hit one of these spells, which it's what they call an unusual phenomenon. I mean, it's well known. It's part of the chronic fatigue picture, and they think that they're better.
And so they work themselves to death.
And then they quit taking everything too, and so then the crash is that much worse. If you can continue taking the stuff for weeks or maybe even months after all the symptoms are gone.
Realize that this phenomenal energy is part of the pattern.
It is.
And it doesn't necessarily indicate wellness. It's not an excuse to eat junk food. It's not an excuse to quit taking your stuff. It's not an excuse to quit getting foot zones. It's not, it's a hopeful sign, but it's not the final cure unless it lasts for some time.
And you never want to give up your good nutrition anyway. You want to continue to give, because it happened because of what do you want to call it?
I'm not sure.
Not enough. Deficiencies. Jeez. My brain
We're
today.
both a little tired. Too short nights.
Yes. Okay, so that leads us into the emotional aspects of chronic fatigue. All right. Chronic fatigue has a great effect on the mind. It can be very difficult to be positive in the face of chronic fatigue.
I know very few chronic fatigue sufferers who are not depressed.
Yeah. Depression is part of it.
In the 4-day homeopathic class we talk about different depressions and different ways to treat them, and the ones that are scary, the ones you should worry about, suicidality type stuff. But depression is part of chronic fatigue.
And if it is depression to the point of suicidal tendencies or thoughts, you definitely need to get over whatever is holding you back from taking on homeopathics and hit this hard, because oils are great, and suicide, they'll help with depression, they'll help with those suicidal tendencies, but you need to get to the root of it, and you need to hit it with homeopathics.
To retune the entire energy system from the inside out. But it's part of it. Sometimes it's just a hopelessness because they're not getting the things done, and their life's passing, and they had goals, and they're not getting there.
And that's different. That's different than suicide.
Then sometimes there's complete despair, and the only way out of the pain and the despair. So do watch out. Chronic fatigue has a high rate of suicidality.
It does. Okay.
It does.
So the essential oils for the emotions. I forget that I'm supposed to be doing two things at once. Okay. And again, they are not listed in any order. Heart Song is probably the number one here. Inner Peace is absolutely amazing, and Cherish is very expensive, but it's awesome.
Oh, but I do love that osmanthus.
Let's talk a little bit about each one, and so you can maybe figure out which one should have fit you. Hey, look, there's where wisdom went.
There's where wisdom belonged.
That just makes me mad that I did that.
You'll fix it.
Well, I don't know if it was wrong on the thing or just on the images I put together for this. And now I won't remember where it was, but I'll look later. Okay, Inner Peace. It's acceptance. It helps us to accept ourselves and others.
And for me, acceptance is an oil about change. A change in a job, a change, kids leave home. It's that depression that comes because a period of your life is over. Now gone.
And you're starting a new one.
And sometimes when you have chronic fatigue and you have to downsize a job or downsize your plans and dreams and hopes for the next year or 2 or 3, acceptance is, inner peace is a good oil for that.
Okay. Cherish. Cherish is inner courage, and the oils that are in it are they're your high floral leaves.
We bought osmanthus, and it was so expensive that my husband told me I had to find a blend to kind of tone down that price because nobody would buy it, and so I toned it down with jasmine.
Not helpful, but it's amazing.
Really wanted jasmine. Little Sisters kind of helps the price, but
So it's clarity of purpose, strength of character, and it fills our souls with a greater reserve.
I soaked my purse in it. Well, I did, not on purpose, but I did it. And, I love that purse for months.
We had the most horrible thing happen at our house. My daughter dropped a gallon of milk, and before she managed to get it picked up, we lost about 2 quarts. She comes out and tells me this. I'm like, okay, we'll clean it up. She did. And I come in, and surprisingly enough, my floor wasn't sticky. She'd done a really good job. Next day, I come down out of my bedroom, though, and it smelled so bad. I check in garbages, and I smelled the floor where she'd spilled milk. I asked her, did it go behind the fridge? Where is this coming from? Oh, this was last week. Anyway, it turns out that she had taken the 2 towels, it took 2, and instead of putting them in the washing machine or even in a sink, she had thrown them on the carpet in the kitchen. In my old kitchen. That rug is not there anymore.
That rug is toast.
It smelled so bad in our house. I washed them like 4 times, and I put every oil I did. I should have just thrown them away.
Delivering milk, never break a bottle in your car.
No. So, but I come back a couple hours later, I don't know where I had to go, and my house smelled so good. And one of my children, I'll quit mentioning them by name, Mom. One of my children had gotten out the diffuser and put oils in it. And the longer I'm like, wow, that smells so good.
That is so amazing.
I finally says, what in the world did you put in the diffuser? And she says, expressions.
Half ounce of expressions.
And I'm like, oh, ouch. That's not one that we diffuse. We just smell that one sometimes.
We wave that under our nose.
That's Cherish. It's a wonderful oil, but a little bit goes a long ways, and you don't need to put it in a diffuser or anything. Just smell a little bit.
I like this one. I won't mention this guy's name either, but he's fighting a thing and has been for several weeks, and I took him a little osmanthus just to help stave off the depression that having his life so badly interrupted is creating. So, it's an amazing thing.
And he loved it.
Oh, yes, he does. Okay. And this is a guy who's not floral in any way.
No, but it is amazing the way that it elevates the mind to a greater purpose. Yep. It is a great oil for depression.
Now, Heart Song,
which is a number 1 oil for depression. I don't know Cherish if you could afford it, but Heart Song was around for years and years and years before Cherish, and it's absolutely awesome.
Postpartum depression, any kind of depression, any depression that's linked to a relationship sort of issue. Or
if it's a need to feel loved and cherished, then
if you
Heart Song.
Need to know that people around you love you, need to know heaven loves you, just need to know, it's probably the number 1 oil for depression. It was created for depression, and
Cherish is great for stalling off the depression. But when you're already there, depression is what you have, and it's where you are. Heart Song deals with those emotions.
Yep, and
it's a different set of emotions. The ones that are sending you on, I'm getting depressed because I can't keep up. I'm getting depressed because there's all this. That's different than okay, I'm here, I'm depressed. The different emotions, and Heart Song is awesome for depression. Yep. Sanctuary is my oil because when I can't find peace and quiet, which is almost unavailable in this place. It's true. It's kind of like my own little corner of the world. I can go into my noisy little middle of the road office and diffuse Sanctuary and almost feel like I'm alone. It helps me quiet and calm my soul enough to listen to inspiration. And Sanctuary, it's my blend. Cedarwood rather than sandalwood, which surprises me, but I love the thing anyway. Happens sometimes. Okay, you want to take wisdom or you want me to? Oh, I don't care. Fears, frustrations, annoyances, irritability. It tickles me how much of this when you're doing. I don't feel like a monologue over here. You're getting it when we get to the homeopathic section, so don't worry. Okay. So all of these fears, frustrations, negative emotions, it helps mellow them out into wisdom. We're supposed to learn from our trials. And if we're so caught up in our trials that we can't, wisdom will help us to do that, making it an absolutely wonderful emotional oil. I think of wisdom for those people who feel like they're never enough or they've never done enough. Negative patterns you're stuck in. Yeah. It helps break those patterns. Yep. Okay. Stress. Yeah.
Got that.
We'll go back to letting them see us. Woohoo!
Oh, yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
Okay. Stress.
I'm just going to read this directly from that book I quoted, The Hidden Epidemic by Stoff and Pellegrini. It was quoting Science News, and it's an old thing because it's 1987. And maybe I won't read it to you. Maybe I'll just summarize it. What he's talking about is if you are the caregiver for an Alzheimer's patient, or that chronic fatigue is, you run to the point where you exhaust all your own resources, and then that situation resolves itself or in some way, and
you're left with the chronic fatigue.
You're left with, instead of being able to run off and do the things you haven't been able to do, you're left with chronic fatigue. And it doesn't have to be caring for someone else. It can be any kind of stress, but they're stressing here the fact that that caregiver role can exhaust your adrenals and set you up for chronic fatigue, and every other thing that a downed immune system can let you up for.
Yeah, it takes out your immune system. So prolonged stress of any kind can have similar effects on the immune system and the nervous system.
We're just not supposed to live our lives in chronic stress, and we do. We all do it. So
I think the emotional oils we talked about, that's where they really shine. When you're taking care of someone else and that stress is so great, some of those oils like Wisdom and Heart Song really help keep your focus where it is, on the service that you're providing and on the care that you're giving, rather than on how hard and stressful it is and all the things that you're missing out on.
One of the very first things that I came across back in the days when I was throwing people off my porch for telling me my kidney issues were because I had more fear than faith was a book by Norman Cousins called The Anatomy of an Illness. I don't even know if it's available anymore, but what he's talking about here is if negative emotions build negative physical consequences, maybe we should consider that positive emotions like gratitude and thankfulness and any positive emotion will create a chemical change in the body that will breed health. Yeah. And I think he had a point. Chemical changes don't occur only on the downside. People who end their day in gratitude, a little gratitude journal, a little thankfulness, calling up someone to tell them how something they did made their day, will do a lot for your health, especially if you're a chronic fatigue sufferer. Focusing on the positive.
But if you happen to know somebody who is caring for somebody and is primary caregiver for someone, and they don't have chronic fatigue yet,
take them some essential oils.
Take them some essential oils and help. Heart Song, The Grateful Heart.
Take them some Mint. Take them some K&A.
And help them to understand that they don't want to go here. Prevention is so much easier than the cure.
Oh. Okay.
And those people, they're taking care of someone else. They need somebody to take care of them too. So we have come to the point where we're going to talk about chronic fatigue from a homeopathic standpoint. And there are 5 remedies that we want to talk about. 5. Well, there's 7.
A lot more than 5.
There's 5 remedies for chronic fatigue, and there's a couple more that really come up pretty quick.
So in the back of this book I keep mentioning, Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, The Hidden Epidemic, there was a little section at the back and it said for practitioners, and it listed some homeopathics and what proportions to mix them in and how to take them and what potency, and I didn't know anything about homeopathy in those days. And I went looking for them and I had a hard time finding them, and some very wonderful people who manufacture homeopathics responded to my question and my need, and these chronic fatigue remedies stem from the back of this book, although I never follow a recipe, never have.
We need to talk a little bit, because we have no way of knowing who's going to watch this live or how much
what is homeopathy?
Exposure you have. So we're going to have to go a little bit into what homeopathics are, and also how you would take them and how long you would take them.
Okay, homeopathy is probably the only true energy modality, because that's what it is. It's energy in a bottle. There are 5 basic principles to homeopathy, and one of the basic ones is the more you dilute the substance, the more potent it becomes, which throws people right out the door to begin with. But I've been doing homeopathics for 35 years, and I started an oil company. I've been Herbal for 45, long time. Am I that old? Oh, yes. Anyway, but if I'm really serious about something and it is a life-threatening or debilitating disease, homeopathy is where it is. One of the second rules of homeopathy is that you pick your remedy according to the symptom picture. So that means if chronic fatigue has 50 symptoms and you have this 20 and your neighbor down the road has a different 20,
You're not going to
the
take the same thing.
homeopathic you use is going to be totally different from one to the other. Homeopathy takes a little getting used to. We try to teach it in a 4-day class. Most people come back and take it twice because there's too much information at once.
And it's different. It's such a different mindset from our Western medicine.
Backwards.
It is so backwards.
Oh, it's amazing. It is the number 2. I mean, drugs are the number 1 medical modality in the whole world. But number 2, there are whole countries where homeopathy is their mode of medical choice. And it's mine too. So, and besides, it's so quick. I used to, when one of my children would do his asthma attack, I would squirt one homeopathic in his mouth, count to 60, and if that hadn't fixed it, I would use the other one. One was for mold, and one was for plant allergies. Would depend on whether he'd been crawling around in moldy hay or running around in the wheat field.
I finally ran across a case of athlete's foot that I could not cure. And I mean, I've cured half a dozen people with athlete's foot myself on many occasions. I've seen it so many times, and different funguses on hands and I've seen it cured so many times. And I got this teenage son who will do it until he feels it only itches, it doesn't burn. And then he quits doing it. Well, what he has done is he has bred a super fungus.
Yes, he has.
And I
kill the weak ones and let the strong ones
multiply. Ones live, and then they multiply, and then he kills off the strongest of those. And he has done this so many times that we can't get rid of it. Even when I sat on him every day, I'm like, okay, have you done this yet today? Have you done this? And I was making him do it. We weren't winning, and we finally hit it with a couple homeopathics, and we finally won.
I can honestly tell you, with my husband's burn, he would not have survived it without homeopathy.
Homeopathy is very important, and so even though this is a chronic fatigue and essential oils, we're gonna take the rest of this and do homeopathy.
One more basics of homeopathy. The debate out there among great homeopaths world around is rather to do things in high potency or low potency combinations. These remedies are low potency combinations, which is unusual for me because I tend to use high potency singles. Okay, that's my modality. Those of you who understand homeopathy will know exactly what I'm saying. For those of you who don't, little background information: you're gonna have to go high potency eventually. But someone as debilitated as chronic fatigue usually is, just can't take that. It's like using a bazooka when a little water pistol is what you need. Okay.
It's all good. Okay.
And so you start with these low potency combinations because they're hitting each organ gently. They're gentle nudges to a more stable place. And then when you've sorted out the symptoms and you have a few major ones remaining, then you knock them over with the big guns of the single homeopathics in higher potency. But this is where you want to begin almost all the time with chronic fatigue sufferers.
So the CFS5 that's right there in the middle, we're actually going to talk about that one. We're going to do the CFS ones in order of how they're different. But almost everybody who does chronic fatigue will end up taking these 3. They'll test up for them, or they'll match the symptom picture. Glandular support, and it's number 3. You can't tell that from the picture, but it's in the thing on the blog, and
it's the little purple book, the Butterfly Miracles with Homeopathy. These are found in that purple book under a whole section on chronic fatigue.
Yep. So that purple book has an entire section you can read about chronic fatigue and homeopathy.
Glandular support, that's what it is. There's something in there for your adrenals, your thyroid, your thymus, just covers the board. So at some point in chronic fatigue recovery, people will test for that.
And the detox number 1.
Well, let's see. That just a basic, like it says, a detox formula. It's supporting, well, not supporting the liver, but causing it to dump, and then supporting the colon and the kidneys to handle it. If you're going to do some heavy detox, this is probably the one you need so we don't break out in a rash from head to foot and get the headache.
The purple book will break out each of the detox ones, and tell you which detox one is specific for heavy metals, which one is specific for...
This is a general all around.
Maybe pollens and different pollutants and whatever. So you could definitely go a lot farther with this than we are going to right now.
Just mentioning that you'll probably need them at some point, but you're going to start with these basic 4.
Okay, so let's talk about the different...
I was going to write notes across the top. Okay.
Oh, well, I could have highlighted it too. But...
Echinacea. We put both kinds. There's an augustifolia and a purpurea. They're different colors of the flower is what it is. And in my version of energy, that makes them different personality styles.
So,
but we just put them both in here.
Let's make this, see if I can make this make sense. CFS, all of them, all 5 of them, they're combinations of other things. So CFS number 1 is a combination of augustifolia and purpurea. And you could actually...
Well, it's that and argentum and ferrum, too.
Yeah.
So
you could actually buy the augustifolia homeopathic on our website, but we don't actually sell the purpurea. The only way you can get that is in this. And I found that interesting. And
I didn't know that.
I'm going to go do some digging and see if they have the
that?
other one. But the other one's not for sale on their website, so I don't know. Anyway, but CFS number 1 contains the echinacea, both kinds, and it has argenicum nitricum and ferrum phosphoricum.
You didn't do that so bad.
No, I've been around homeopathic.
You've been practicing a lot.
Ha ha. No. So, were you finished with echinacea?
I don't know. Let's see.
It's liver function.
Liver function is a great part of that, and fatigue and prostration are keynotes of this. If the person you're dealing with literally is flat in bed 17, 18, 19, 20 hours a day,
CFS number 1.
This is going to help him a lot. And you probably ought to consider it as an herbal supplement too. It's echinacea in the literature, or not in the literature, but in the news, is touted as a cold remedy. In my opinion, that's only if you're trying to prevent. It's an immune builder. It helps protect the body against bacterial infection. It's not really much good once you have it.
No. The argenicum nitrum in there is phobias, fears, anxiety,
weariness,
fear of failure.
But
we talked about these things with oils.
One of the keynotes of argentum is the colic, the gas, the distension of the abdomen, that sort of thing. So, but fear of failure, one chronic fatigue, it's like, okay, you almost get this project, but he's afraid it's not going to turn out good. He needs to go to bed for a couple of days and make sure it doesn't happen. I don't know. The fear of failure, or even fear of success. It's
sometimes.
Yep, sometimes. So,
okay, so ferrum phosphoricum.
Overwhelming craving for sweets on argentum nitricum.
Right, yeah, okay.
That's the major thing there. They just can't. I'm gonna go wash somebody in that. Okay. Ferrum phosphoricum.
It's an iron phosphate.
Iron phosphate. So.
Okay, it's a polycrest.
Debility, exhaustion, and anemia. Two major polycrests in the same.
So, and it's hemoglobin levels, which again takes you back to the liver thing. That's interesting.
Yep, first stage of an inflammatory disorder. So, ferrum phos, woman says, "Oh, I might be pregnant." Squirt ferrum phos in her mouth, prevent anemia. So.
Okay. Well, I'm not pregnant, so we've already established that today. I'm not pregnant. I'm really happy about this, actually. Okay, CFS
as
number 2.
Tickled as you were to get last little girl here.
I wouldn't have been upset. I don't know. It's more of a health issue, because I was kind of sad when I found out I wasn't, but health-wise, it was scaring me to death.
Okay, number 2. Apis is one of the, let's get all 3. Apis, belladonna, and hypericum.
Perforatum.
Yeah, sum those up. Apis mellifica, it's based on the honeybee, but it's been used, especially about 10 years ago in Mexico, before they shut them down, for multiple sclerosis. They were taking people to this clinic and having them get stung by honeybees, and it was backing off the multiple sclerosis symptoms, which I find interesting.
See, but multiple sclerosis, that definitely qualifies as nerve and immune system.
As a chronic illness, yeah. So
illness,
what I think of with apis is anything that stings or burns or swells up, and that's often not really a chronic fatigue thing. So what you're looking for here is an immune stimulant and a nerve stimulant.
Belladonna is definitely that. Also,
and it's an allergy remedy.
And it's a sleep disorder.
Yes, it is.
So
stinging, burning sensations.
And sleep.
And internal or otherwise. So, belladonna, deadly nightshade, is a brain and nerve center, glandular and lymphatic. The keynote of belladonna is usually that there's a lot of
heart rate.
Well, there's tenderness and sweating, sensitivity to touch. They'll even complain about always unbuttoning their clothes because they're too tight, or not wanting their covers on because they're too tight. There's a lot of sleep disorders in belladonna, and it's an amazing thing for helping them sleep better. So,
yeah. Okay, CFS.
Oh, we didn't do the hypericum part of this one. Okay.
St. John's wort.
It's otherwise known as St. John's wort, which might tell you about what you need to know. Depression, nervous depression following illness or chronic injury or chronic illness. So, hypericum, an amazing thing for chronic fatigues, nerve symptoms. Number 3.
CFS number 3. This one targets liver, pancreas, adrenal cortex, and the digestive function. It contains hypersulfurous calcium, which is a calcium sulfate, mercurius solubus, which is mercury vivis, and I'm sure a lot of these words are Latin and they're just
basically it's mercury, you know, that little mercury. Silver stuff that you
yeah, but in a homeopathy world that's not a bad thing.
It's a wonderful thing.
Because that means it's cleaning up behind it. Spongia tostia, which is roasted sponge.
Yep.
Fascinating.
And taraxacum, which is dandelion. So.
Officinal, yeah.
Just a plain dandelion.
Okay, so CFS number 3 would be the one to grab if
you have sadness and depression to the point of suicidal. Okay.
This is that one.
Hepersul. If you look it up in a big materia medica, hepersulf runs for pages. So we have only covered the basics. Extreme irritability, impulsiveness, a ferocious temper, and then depression. It's in other words, bipolar. Okay.
The syllabus, I when we were reading over this, it talked about like being a human thermometer. They're hot one minute, and then up and down, and that's not just with temperature, but also with moods and. Yeah, that's a mercurius.
So both Hepper and Mercurius are your mood swing thing that you often see with chronic fatigue.
And that's also a depression thing. I mean, they're fine one minute and then they're up and down. The bipolar is, definitely a CFS3.
The spongiatosta, here is another adrenal gland thing and a stimulant for the liver.
Clothes are uncomfortable. They want to loosen the tie. They want to take off their shirt, or they're just constantly unbuttoning the top button of their pants. They're just uncomfortable in their own clothes.
And that's also focus on the future.
Yep, their fear of the future.
I'm never going to get better. How's my family going to eat? You know, what's going to happen to my business? What am I going to be able to keep my job? Their focus is on the future. So. Okay,
then Taraxacum officinal, is that how you say that?
Dandelion, that's close. I mean, who knows? These are Latin names. They've been dead for years.
That's true.
Impatience, irritability, grinding, grumbling going on.
The bursting bubbles in the stomach.
The grumbling is under the breath. You're constantly saying to him, what'd you say? Oh, I'm just muttering. I'm just mumbling, you know.
Interesting.
That's the Tarax.
I like the fact that the Tarax stimulates the immune
system.
And the metabolism.
Yep.
So, supports the immune system.
All right. And what I mean by, a lot of chronic fatigue sufferers are just slightly underweight, or they're carrying their weight in the wrong places. This metabolism seems to adjust that. It helps with that. So, yep.
Okay, CFS number 4.
Oh, only 3: Sepia succus, Ignatia amara, and Calcarea carbonica. Sepia, number one polycrest remedy for women. Most women at some time in their life will match these symptoms.
Okay.
Last time they told me I was reclining too much.
It's interesting that one of the major calls for this one is dark circles under the eyes.
Something twisting in the stomach, and something in women, it's that feeling of everything falling out. It's the prolapsed organs, the trashed pelvic floor. But the emotional thing is feeling overwhelmed by family responsibility. You love your kids, you just wish they'd leave you alone for a minute.
I don't know if we told them what was in it. It's Sepia succus.
I did. I read them. I did.
Oh, you did?
Really good, yes.
The cuttlefish ink?
Oh, I didn't tell them what was cuttlefish ink. I just gave the Latin names. So.
I don't know how you say that one, Mom.
Ignatia amara.
The Saint Ignatius bean. That one's grief and worry. Yeah.
Always grief with
And
Ignatia.
then the Calcarea carbonica is calcium carbonate.
Yep.
Okay.
Extreme fatigue due to mental or physical overexertion. So once they thought they were feeling better and they ran themselves ragged, this is the one to help put them back online.
It's also the one for nightmares, poor sleep patterns, nausea. Okay.
I don't know what happened to the next page.
Well, I don't either. So
I don't know what's in CS number 5 without cheat sheets.
Well, it has Calcarea muriatica. I know that. Okay, well, you're going to get to look at us for a second while I find it.
You're going to tell him something while I go find it. Oh, you're looking at pull up the document?
Yeah, I'll just look it up.
All right.
Because,
fast.
I can't figure out.
I can't remember what's in 5 besides the muriatica.
It's really weird that the paper's not here. We'll blame Joel. It's his turn.
Okay, well, anyway, what I do know about CFS number 5, without any helps, you want to run and find helps, is that it is for anxiety, weakness, and trembling. I've known so many chronic fatigue sufferers whom you take the phone off the hook after 7 o'clock because if it rings, their hands will tremble. And they'll just be totally mentally and emotionally debilitated. So
I know what's in it. We'll see how well she can do from that list. Okay, so
I have over 600 homeopathics. Let's see what I know here from the list.
Let's see what she knows. So it's Calcarea muriatica, Calliphosphoricum,
Reserpinum,
and Zincum.
All right.
Muriaticum.
Okay, here we go. Calliphos. Whenever I see the word Cali, the word that comes to mind is Eeyore. Okay. They're depressed, but they're depressed in that way. Well, it's not too bad. But it's never going to get any better either. You know, that's just the way it is. So that's what that one's for. The Cali muriaticum is the anxiety. So, but it's that low anxiety that, not bad enough to get up and fix. It's just bad. And Reserpinum, that's an unusual one. It's a strange one.
I've actually never heard of it, so that's...
well, and I don't think we sell it singly. We found it in this thing. But it is a nervine. That's what it does. Nerves along the upper part of the back, is in the back of the neck. And zinc...
Zincum muriaticum.
One thing we haven't mentioned about homeopathics is when you're talking minerals like zinc, it helps with the uptake of the minerals that you're missing. And anything
That's
with a muriaticum is going to be fatigue.
I started taking zinc not too long ago, and I had been taking it a couple of, maybe 3 days, and I was testing for what to do about my hair. It's driving me crazy, and it tested to just saturate my hair in it. So I've actually gotten an 8-ounce spray bottle, and I've been spraying it with it. Well, the other day my hair's in a ponytail, and I hadn't sprayed it on it all day, and I thought, I need to do that. So I only sprayed the top half. I could tell the difference when I took my ponytail out. It was thicker. It was different.
The top. Oh, that's fun. I've always wanted thicker hair.
No, zinc. I take it in the morning. It's one of my. So
where does the rest of this article go? Because I have no idea.
No, there was a little bit of a final where you were talking about the Epstein-Barr virus.
Oh. Well, to close it down, I just want to re-say what we've said in the fact that so many times chronic fatigue takes a long time to get over. And if it's driven by this need to run faster than you have strength, I've seen so many people be better for a few months, better for a year even. But the same patterns that led them there. I'm not saying this is a psychosomatic disease because it's not. It probably was a combination of a virus or a
and virus.
But they tend to run faster than they have strength until they have run themselves ragged again. And generally chronic fatigue sufferers, maybe because they're so tired, but they don't tend to follow through with the things they need to be taking. And I'm a great one to say, you're an adult, let's adult today,
but
when you're married to or living with a chronic fatigue sufferer, or make them a chart, make them something to check off, follow up, help them follow through, because brain fog is a very real part of it, and discouragement, and I'm sure this has never worked in the past, I've never felt good in 100 years. And you may have to help them
adjust your diet and theirs at the same time.
They will go to the fridge and cook a hot dog, or
when there's salad and steamed vegetables.
When there's salad and vegetable soup in there, they will, and it's part of the food cravings. And I'm sorry, sometimes you just have to help people heal. They don't do it on their own.
Yep, you do.
And chronic fatigue is one of those.
We love to hear questions. If you message us, we'll get back to you on an individual basis.
Did I hear Judy was down there fielding questions?
She has been doing some, because we can't even see them with sharing our screen. One thing we'd really appreciate if you guys could share this video, get it out there so that people who are looking for answers can find them. We'd really appreciate that. And I hope you guys have a great day. I slid it off too far. You guys are stuck with us.